Hi everyone, I'm Vix and I'm a program manager here in our Developer Tools and Services division. And I am so excited to be talking with you at Ignite this year. Even if we can't talk in person, I'm hoping that we can do that together soon. You know, you're actually kind of interrupting something. We have this incredible new team member, Leslie, joining today. And it's my job to make sure that she's onboarded successfully to our code base and hopefully getting in there and making some edits today too. So I'd like to jump back into that, but I guess what I could do is talk about a few things that I'd like to share with you about some of the challenges that I've been experiencing in the past 6 months with COVID-19 and with switching to a completely remote environment. One of the things that comes straight to mind is getting access to the things that I need to be productive. So when I think about being a developer and needing a machine that supports that, right now I'm working remotely off my laptop, which isn't spec'd out to be my main dev machine. So switching onto that and kind of getting that all set up in a new machine takes time, and that affects also inside of my work-life balance and how I want to spend my time outside of work. So that's been a challenge for me. I would also say that, you know, as we're getting all set up, it's not just myself, but it's my whole team who's also remote. So as we are making changes and edits to support our customers, it's been hard to not sit side by side with somebody in the way that I used to be able to do and quickly look through our changes together. And I love working through that with my team and myself making edits to the code. But I also really value what my customers say about the tooling and how they're using it. So shipping quickly and securely in a way that also supports them in this remote environment is something that's really important to me. And we're seeing here that with all these new developers joining in from all over the world in this kind of new remote age has definitely brought its own set of needs specific to people who are joining new. Sometimes they're joining an entirely new career and from a completely remote environment. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how the Microsoft Developer Cloud tools have made it a little bit easier. Not all of these challenges are going to be solved by technology, but as my team and I have adapted, we've kind of been using different parts of the Developer Cloud to support us in ways that we haven't had before. One of the ways is using Codespaces to make it easier to onboard and set up and configure my development environments. So that means that even with a laptop, I can kind of get up and running quickly, and new employees can also get up and running quickly with setup that takes seconds, not days. We're also seeing that, you know, from my experience using Teams and LiveShare, I'm able to quickly collaborate and pull folks into sessions and quickly ask questions that I may have inside of our code and fix bugs and be able to ship our products in a more stable way, in a much faster way, with that improved collaboration. Lastly, I'm seeing that with Visual Studio and the family of tooling for Visual Studio, we're also seeing this collaboration between GitHub Actions and Azure and these integrations that allow me to make changes that I need seamlessly and securely and deploy them to production so that my customers and my users can see them. So bringing together Visual Studio family of tools, the GitHub collaboration, the DevOps platform, and Azure, my team and I are able to code, collaborate, and ship from anywhere in a pretty easy way. Great, so now that we've kind of talked through some of those, let's go ahead and see them in action. I'm going to give Leslie a bug to fix, and we'll see how far she's able to get in her first day. And then we'll do a check back in at the end and see what those changes have been and see how well it went. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Leslie, and I'm so excited to start my first day at my new job. Although let me tell you, my 5-second commute was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I almost tripped over my laundry, I ran into my kitchen trash can, and it turns out I have no more Pop-Tarts in my pantry, so now I gotta go to the grocery store at noon before the rush happens at the end of the day. But anyway, at this point, I guess the best I can hope for my first day is that I will be spending it setting up my work environment like I usually do on every first day of work. So let's see what my onboarding buddy Vix has sent me. Whoa. Well, in a shocking turn of events, I've actually been given real work to do in a project. I get to fix a bug. And that's really exciting, seeing as how it's my first day and I don't even have my work machine yet. But let's dive in because I don't have much time. So this is a sped up recording of me installing Visual Studio and Codespaces on my local machine. And I noticed that the time it took to install Visual Studio was a lot faster than I'm used to. And that's because Codespaces uses Azure in the cloud to build and run my applications. And this is what allows me to run my applications on my lesser spec machine in contrast to something more powerful, say my work machine, which I currently don't have. Similarly, Visual Studio expands on that idea by using Azure and the cloud to install Visual Studio components such as build tools, SDKs, and compiler tools. And as a result, we're taking the load off of my personal laptop and cuts the time it takes to install Visual Studio by a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean this install took me around 3 minutes. So on the one hand, this means I don't have an excuse for a coffee break, but on the other hand, it does mean I can become more productive that much faster. All right, so after a very short installation time, Visual Studio is up and ready to go. And now all I need to do is create and connect to a code space. So as mentioned before, a code space will allow me to create an environment up in the cloud. And doing this will let me use the environment that I'd expect to see on my local, more powerful machine with all the various specs and requirements and access it anywhere, even from my personal rinky-dink laptop like right now. So to do that, let's select connect to a code space. So this is technically called GitHub Codespaces, and that's because we're utilizing GitHub to create these environments. And I'm already signed in, but if you're not signed in and you want to try out this cool code space, you can add an account or create a GitHub account, and you'll be redirected to the browser where you can enter your login information. And that gives me single sign-on access to all of my GitHub tools and any Git tools that I have within the IDE. So all I need to do in my case is copy paste the repository URL, which Fix has given me. And from there, I can choose an instance type. I'm going to stick with this one, but if budgetary concerns are a thing or you're interested in scaling up your capacity, then there's lots of options for this. And now I just get to create and connect, and we'll be all set. And now I'm officially inside a GitHub Codespace. Very exciting. Right off the bat, it looks like not much has changed between the local environment that I'm used to and the remote environment that I'm currently in, except for the Solution Explorer view here. This is new. So now I'm being prompted by default to open a solution, folder, or other item. And this is great because in my case, I have 2 solutions within this project. So I would like to choose one of them by default when I first open that project. So in my case, I'm going to select eShop on web. But what's also great is if I wanted to choose the other solution, I can simply toggle between the 2 views and choose web front end if I wanted to. So now I want to get down to business and actually get to work fixing the bug that I've been assigned. And in Visual Studio, they've gone and revamped the entire Git experience to make it a lot more streamlined and a lot easier to use, primarily focused on this Git changes window here. So before this window, there was the Team Explorer window, which got the job done, but I think it could have been a lot more streamlined like this window is. And for me personally, I would typically use either the integrated terminal or an exterior PowerShell terminal in order to perform all my Git related actions. But now I'm going to use this Git changes menu in order to create a new branch and do all of the Git responsibilities that I need. So I'm going to create a new branch and we're going to call it dev fix bug. And there it is. I've checked out this branch by default. Now from here, let's just go ahead and run this project and see what's going on bug-wise with it. This is so cool because I am not using my work machine, but I'm still able to boot up this application without having to rely on any of the dependencies being on my local environment. Okay, so I was told that the issue has to do with adding an image to my basket. So let's add this mug. And sure enough, I think I found the problem. The image for the mug is no longer there when I add it to a basket. So let's go into Visual Studio and figure that out. So I got a tip from Vix that I need to be looking in a file called basket view model service. There we go. And seriously, if you're not using that global search tool or control Q, you should be. Seriously, I use Visual Studio all the time, and I feel like I never know where half the things are unless I use that search. So it's fantastic. All right, so from here, I need to locate the get basket items function. Thank you, Vix. And I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint here because I want to inspect it. And I should be able to get the same debugging experience remotely in my code space that I do locally. So let's restart this page. Yes, I would like to resubmit. And that should cause my breakpoint to hit. There we go. Now from here, I could just step until I get to the line I need to get to, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to the end using that run to click function for those of you who like cool debugging tools like I do. And now it looks like if I hover over my basket item view model and expand out this data tip, my product name is the same as my picture URL. That's not even a URL, so that looks like it could be the problem. So let's go ahead and stop running my application and change it to a property that actually makes sense. So let's change it to, I'm not too familiar with this base. Oh, picture URI, that looks helpful. Go ahead and save that. And I'm feeling pretty good about this change, and I think that is going to fix the problem. So let's go ahead and make a commit in Git changes. So I need to enter a message. I'm going to call it fixed picture URL basket bug. And what's cool is I get new prompts, like I can amend if I wanted to, which is something I'd normally have to go out into the terminal or whatever my Git location of choice is in order to implement. And instead I can just check it like it's nothing. But I'm not going to do that this time. And I'm going to go ahead and commit all. All right. So as you can see, my commit has now been created locally. And I also get this cool new status menu right here that's telling me how many commits are outgoing. And if I had any that were incoming, then it would tell me that as well. So at this point, I'm feeling like I need some more space to do all of the Git actions that I'd like to do. And what's cool and something that I just discovered recently is if you double click on that status icon, then I get the Git repository window. So this is an awesome window that I absolutely love. It gives me a lot of Git functionality that I would usually have to go over to GitHub in order to see. So for instance, I can view my branch history across any branch I want without having to check out each one individually. And I can, narrow things down. I can see who made each commit. I can see tags. I can choose not to see tags. The list goes on. Really cool. Saves me a lot of time. I don't have to tab around constantly, and I can just stay within the IDE. So now what I'd actually like to do is merge my master branch into my fixed bug branch. So we're going to right click and do just that. And oh boy, it's everyone's favorite message when it comes to version control, the good old classic merge conflict. But with all of the different Git improvements that have been made in Visual Studio, merging and resolving merge conflicts has been so much easier. So based off of this message, I can go down to unmerged changes and select the file that just got changed. And from there, I get this brand new interface that really helps clarify exactly what changes are incoming, which changes are happening on my current branch, and ultimately what the result will be if I decide to take one change over another, or both changes if I wanted to. So this is really great. I don't have to worry about any weird head keywords or remembering to remove all the carets when I'm done making my changes. This is a lot simpler. And I can also go to the exact spot in the line that was changed. So show word difference is highlighted now, but if I didn't want to see that, I can always toggle it on or off. And additionally, to save some time, I only have one conflict here, but if I had a lot, instead of having to manually go through each one, if I wanted to just automatically accept all of the changes coming in from my master branch, I can check this mark here and it will automatically accept all of those changes from that branch. I can do a similar thing if I wanted to take everything from the current. And in my case, I'm noticing that a trim function was added here, so that seems important. So I would like to have both my current fixes as well as the incoming changes. So let's check both of these. Oh. Let's check that, and then I'm going to add in trim. And at this point, this is looking good to go, and this is everything I ever wanted and more. So I think it's safe to accept the merge. And there it is. My merge is currently in progress because I still need to commit all my stage changes. So let's say merged master into fix bug. And go ahead and commit. All right, that is looking pretty good. So now I think it's safe to go ahead and push all of these changes. So you might have noticed these new arrows. I just find these so intuitive. And we're going to use push. All right. So all of my commits have successfully been pushed to the origin. And now I'm going to go ahead and create a pull request. So it used to be that I would have to go over to GitHub manually and open up whatever browser I use and then access the pull request window. But now I can go directly there using the link that it gives me. So this is really nice. Again, if you're new to version control or Git, it will kind of walk you through that basic workflow that you do once you push some changes. So there it is. My PR is done. Super exciting. I never thought I would be making a PR on my very first day at work. It's pretty surreal, but it makes me feel really good that I actually got some work done on day one. Okay, hold up. I just got to hit F5 and run my application, debug my application, do all of this version control, get stuff with it, aka all the things that I would normally do in a local environment, and all I had to do to get started and fix a bug on day one of my job was to copy and paste the Git repository. I didn't have to go through the README and try to understand any of the dependencies. I didn't have to manually install anything else. Like, how did this happen? What's going on? So, turns out there is this file that's called dev.init, and this is a JSON file that keeps a log or like a manifest of all the different dependencies or packages that my environment is going to require when the code space gets created. So in the Git repo, this is where the JSON file is going to be at. And in my case, for this particular application to run properly, I need a tool such as the SDK for .NET Core, MS SQL. This is a big one. I mean, I'm so glad I didn't have to spend time manually setting that up. And if I was unfamiliar with MS SQL, I would have to go look up the documentation for that and troubleshoot my way through it until I finally set up the environment the way I want, after much trial and error, I'm sure. And of course, having things like entity framework tools already there for me once I start this environment. So this is kind of like the magic file that kickstarts my Codespace experience and creates that environment without me having to do any of the legwork that I normally have to do in order to get an application that's this big started. Okay, so now that I've fixed the bug and I have checked out the dev.init file, which is pretty cool, I think this is a good time to just go ahead and publish my changes. So I'm going to right click on this and select publish. And I want to publish to an Azure app service in my case. So we're going to select Azure and select app service for Windows. And I've already made a resource group, so I'm going to select that one. And a new thing that I noticed recently is while I can continue to publish on demand and essentially publish manually anytime I make changes, I now have the option to publish automatically. So Visual Studio recognized that I am using a Git repository and it's suggesting that I use GitHub Actions. And with this project, I also noticed that we currently don't have any continuous integration or deployment set up already. And usually that is something that is pretty hard and frustrating to set up at times. But with GitHub Actions, I can set up a CI/CD system that will kind of do a lot of that legwork for me and will give me the steps that I need to run, test, and deploy to app services. So I'm going to choose that option and select Finish. And when I do that, this YAML file gets created here. So if I open this file up, there's a lot going on, but this is all of the things that GitHub will use to automatically and continuously start deploying any future changes I make. So I'm going to push that change real quick. Let's add a commit. Let's say added GitHub Actions file. And we're going to select commit all and go ahead and push that. All right, so the next time I make any commits to the main branch, GitHub will go ahead and build, run, test, and eventually deploy automatically to my Azure app service. So this is really great. Just set up a CI/CD workflow without really having to do a lot of legwork to get there. So now let's go take a look at what GitHub Actions actually look like when I go to GitHub. So this is what GitHub Actions looks like after I make a commit. And as you can see, there's a lot of check marks that GitHub Actions is completing for me automatically. So each time I make a commit, it will build, run, do any tests I need to do, and deploy to Azure App Services. So speaking of which, let's check out Azure App Services. And here it is. As you can see, my app is fully functional and going. The bug involving the image, once I add it to a basket, is no longer there. All in all, I think I completed my very first assignment on day one of my job. Now that I've fixed the bug in the application, I am so excited. I'm just going to message Vix right now and tell them they should totally take a look at the PR I just made for it.
Okay, so this is great. I just got a message from Leslie saying that she's fixed the bug on her first day, which is amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just review this really quickly via Codespaces. Take a look here. So here I am in my GitHub account. I'm going to go up to Codespaces and load up a Codespace. Here I can already see that my environment is actually the same as it is in my local environment. So I can already see the extensions that I love and the theme that I use. And you know what's interesting is if I go over to my settings, I can see that my settings sync is on. So this means that it's already syncing my settings from my GitHub account that I use for my local VS Code instance, and it's applying that to the web browser, which is wonderful. Here, if I go into the GitHub pull request extension, I can actually check out Leslie's change. Great, so now that I've checked out Leslie's changes, I can go into Basket View Model Service and see what changes she made to fix a bug. So here, this looks great. This change makes a lot of sense to switch it to picture URI rather than .name, and she added in a trim function, which is great. So this bug looks fixed and ready to go, which is awesome. I can see here also that there is a new file and folder that was added under GitHub workflows. I'm going to ask Leslie if she can actually join a live share session quickly, because I have a quick question about why that was added. So here I am. I'm just going to start a session and ask her to join. Great. So she's able to join. I'm going to give her a quick call as well.
Hey, Vix. How's it going?
Hey, Leslie. How are you doing? How's your first day?
I'd say it was pretty good. I managed to fix a bug on day one.
Yeah, you did. I'm actually checking out your pull request right now, and it looks awesome. I'm in the basket view model service.cs file, and I can see the change that you made. It looks so great. So excellent job getting onboarded and running and getting a bug fixed so quickly.
Thank you. Thanks for setting me up to make that even possible.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I noticed also, and the reason why I asked you to join a live share session with me is that I noticed that there was another change in your PR, and I saw that it was in this new file that was added under GitHub workflow. I was hoping that you could walk me through that and pull up that file, and we could take a look at it, and you could maybe explain, because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, no problem. Let me open up the live share session. Okay, I think I'm in.
Great. I can see that you joined the session.
Sweet. So you were referring to a workflow file under GitHub, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm actually going to follow you as you pull up that.
Cool.
Great. I can see you.
Awesome. Yeah, so this file is part of this cool new tool I found out about recently called GitHub Actions. And that's something that allows us to set up continuous integration and deployment pretty easily. I noticed that we didn't have that workflow set up yet, and I figured using GitHub Actions was a quick way to go about it. And so this file automatically gets created when I set up GitHub Actions while I publish for Azure App Services. And this is kind of like a script that lists a bunch of different environmental variables, as well as .NET commands that are run in order to perform the build, the testing, and the publishing, and ultimately the deployment at the end of the day.
Wow, that is amazing. And you already know how to do that on your first day on the job, which is so cool. I think that's incredible, and I learned something new today, so thank you for explaining that to me.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the space to give it a try.
Absolutely. So, how has this day gone? It seems like you've been very busy and getting bug fixes and setting up new deployment avenues for us. How are you feeling after your first day?
I feel very productive. Typically on my first days at work, I come home and I'm just like, yep, I installed Visual Studio. Success. So,
yeah, today was definitely different than that.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool
even just from what I've seen, you've been able to show how using the developer cloud, you've been able to stay productive all while working remote and getting onboarded as a new team member completely remotely. So like you said, how it sometimes just takes that time to just get the install completed. You're able to set up your dev environment very quickly. And now we can also see, using GitHub and LiveShare, that we were able to collaborate quickly also while remote. And then lastly, this whole Azure integration that you were able to set up to easily set up pipelines to deploy to the cloud, right from your IDE, that's amazing. So I would say that today has already been an incredible success. I can't wait to see how the rest of the week goes.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So I may have some friends who are also fellow developers who would love to get in on this new developer cloud stuff. So how can they learn more about it?
Absolutely. That is a great question. I would definitely tell your friends that there are a few things that they could do to quickly get up and running with everything that we've gone through today, which is one, to download Visual Studio Preview and that tooling. Another one is that you can sign up for the GitHub Codespaces beta, so you can tell your friends about that. And then you can always sign up for Azure and get started for free and learn more also in that about the GitHub and Azure integrations here with GitHub Actions that we've seen that you are already able to set up. So I think that those are probably the quickest and easiest next steps for them to try it out.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for being a fantastic onboarding buddy.
Absolutely. Like I said, it was my pleasure. You were incredible.
Thanks. And I don't know about you, but I think it's time for a coffee break.
I completely 100% agree. How
Shall
about
we
we cheers to it?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Cheers.
Cheers.